Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, my piano teacher friends. I am so glad that you've joined me today. Today's episode is going to be really practical, and I hope that you will find it useful. Our theme for this month at Top Music is all about full body learning. And if you haven't downloaded your free Top Music magazine for the month, be sure to check it out because it has tons of information about Kodai, Orff, Alexander technique, and other whole body learning methods. But today I'm going to give you some creative ideas for things that you can include in lessons without any extra training or planning. A lot of these are things that I've used with my students, but I also asked my Instagram followers, who are mostly piano teachers, for some of their best ideas as well. And so I'm going to share those with you today. If you aren't too familiar with whole body learning, it is exactly what it sounds like. Rather than just sitting at the piano and playing notes, it involves getting up off the bench and using the entire body. In addition to being great for wiggly little students who might have a short attention span, it also is a way to reinforce the concepts we are trying to teach in a way that will be memorable to the students. Let's just take steady beat as an example. Having a child, or even an adult for that matter, try to keep a steady beat while reading notes, rhythms, dynamics, all while trying to keep his or her fingers in the right place is going to be a huge challenge. Inexperienced teacher might think this kid has no sense of rhythm at all. But what if you have that same student walk a steady beat or tap a steady beat without the distraction of everything else? You'll get an entirely different result. Since we're already talking about steady beat, let's start off with rhythm. Rhythm is, of course, one of the easiest ways to add whole body activities to your piano lessons. You can have students march the beat or tap the beat with rhythm sticks. By the way, this is just a side note, but if you're looking for some really good rhythm sticks, I like the Music Garden rhythm sticks. You can order them off of the Music Garden website, even if you aren't a Music Garden teacher. And they're small, so they're great for small hands, and they have a really nice tone to them compared to some of the other ones that I've used. You're probably already doing some of those things with your students that I just talked about, so I want to give you a couple of ideas that you might not have thought of. This one kind of makes me laugh, but it's really fun. To help students with a steady beat, you can get an egg shaker or two so that you can play along with them. And go to YouTube and find the theme song to the Pink Panther. And if you listen to the beginning, you'll hear exactly what I mean. If you have a student who is a little beyond a brand new beginner, you could then teach him that opening theme by rote. And then when you are teaching half steps and whole steps, you might say, remember when we played the Pink Panther? And you could talk about the half steps and whole steps in that melody. Another rhythm activity that I like to do, and I've talked about this on the podcast before in my very first episode about using stories in piano lessons, is to read the book Max Has Two Sticks. But instead of just reading it, I give my students a rhythm instrument and they copy the rhythms that are in the book. So if it says dum diddy dum, then they tap that rhythm on their rhythm sticks. Of course, you could turn this into even more of a full body activity by having each rhythm be done differently. So the first one might be tapping their legs, the next one might be stomping their feet, the next one could be clapping, or you could set up different rhythm instruments around the room and have them choose a different instrument for each rhythm in the story. All right, next I want to share a few ideas from my amazing Instagram teacher friends. I asked my followers, many of whom are piano teachers, like I mentioned, what whole body activities they like to use with their students, and they did not disappoint me. First of all, Kirsten Weston of KW Music Studios suggests having kids do interpretive dance to get into character. She says the results can be quite hilarious, and I don't doubt it. I'm not sure exactly how she does this in lessons, but I can imagine doing it if you are going to play all or part of a piece for a student. Rather than have them sit quietly and listen, why not have them moving to the music? If the student is shy, you can tell them that you are going to be watching the music, not them, so they are free to express themselves however they want. One of my previous podcast guests, Elizabeth Davis, who specializes in working with students with neurodifferences, had several great suggestions. She has her students hop left and right to learn stem directions, which I think is a really creative way to change up what we usually do, where we have students tap their right and left hand. She suggested having students sit low to the ground for soft dynamics and then rising up as the dynamics get louder. And then she also suggested animal dances. So I had to ask her what exactly she meant by animal dances. And this is what she said. I try to use animals to match the tempo, like a grandpa sloth, mood, like an angry whale, etc. So we imagine how that animal would move, and I'll play the piece while the student dances around like a grandpa sloth, angry whale, sleepy snail, etc. This doesn't work for all of my students since many are on the autism spectrum, but my young learners and ADHD kids love it. The use of animals and then an adjective, sleepy, slow, angry, helps them understand and embody the mood and make the music artistic and fun. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sending that. I love how she includes an adjective rather than just saying a sloth or a whale so that students can picture it even more vividly. Speaking of animal dances, another activity that I like to do is to show kids a picture of an animal and then have them move like that animal and then play a little improvisation based on the animal. This is fun in a group class because you can have all the students except one move like the animal, and then they can take turns being the one at the piano playing music that fits the animal. As with any improvisation exercise, you can give parameters based on their level, such as use only white notes or play in a certain key. If you teach beginners, another fun little game you can play is Simon Says with right and left and finger numbers. So you would say, Simon says, put your right hand finger 2 on your knee, or Simon says, put your left hand finger 1 on your nose. I love little activities like that don't require any printing or planning, and you can just pull them out of your bag of tricks when your student needs a little brain break or a wiggle break. Another one of my teacher friends, Jessica Homewood, has a resource of no-print games, and one of the ones that she sent out to her email list this week was Red Light, Green Light. She describes it like this. One student, the cop, stands at the finish line facing away. Student drivers step to the metronome beat trying to reach the cop. The cop can turn around any time. Drivers must freeze. If the cop sees movement, that driver is out. Adjust the metronome speed during the game to help students follow the beat. This, of course, would be a great game for a group class, but you could adjust it to work in a private lesson as well, where you were the cop and the student was moving to the metronome, and then you could switch it up. If you want to find more of Jess's games, you can go to her website, which is notyourmotherspianostudio.com. As I was planning this episode for today, I got inspired to write a new sound effects story that would include some whole body activities. If you aren't familiar with my sound effects stories, I have a handful of them in my Etsy shop, and they are simple stories that have instructions embedded in them to make them interactive for piano students. So in some of them, the student is creating sound effects on the piano, such as a horn beeping, and then others have specific instructions to play certain notes or rhythms to help create the story. I will be honest, I had way too much fun creating this newest one. It's called If Dinosaurs Came to Your Piano Lesson. I'll just read the beginning for you. If dinosaurs came to your piano lesson, things would be a little different. First of all, they would make a lot of noise getting to the piano. And then the instructions are stomp 8 times like a T-Rex and then sit at the piano and show Tilly T-Rex what good piano posture is. If dinosaurs came to your piano lesson, the dinosaurs would only want to play low, loud notes. Show Bobby Brachiosaurus how to play low, loud notes that still sound beautiful. The story continues through several other types of dinosaurs, so if you have any dino-loving friends in your studio, be sure to head over to my Etsy shop to get this latest story hot off the presses. And by the way, I make the cover of the story full color, but then for the actual story, I keep the graphics simple so that they won't use up all of your color ink when you print them. But you can also just read them off your computer screen if you don't have a printer available or don't have time to print it out ahead of time. And if you haven't gotten the free sound effects story that I offered to my email subscribers, I will put that link in the show notes as well so that you can try out the free story with your students. I hope that this episode has given you a few new ideas to incorporate into your whole body lessons. I would love to hear if you try any of these out or if you have other ideas that you use. You can always DM me over on Instagram at Rachel Ehring and share your ideas. And don't forget to download your free Top Music magazine. If you head over to topmusic.co and go to the Learn tab at the top, you can download this month's issue as well as any issue that you might have missed. In case you haven't heard, Tim Topham is back on the air with his Topcast podcast. And earlier this week, I had the privilege of being a guest on his show. We talked all about adding accompanying to your piano career to increase your income. And I announced a free live masterclass that I have coming up on June 24th. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I hope you'll check it out along with the other fantastic episodes that Tim has done recently. That's all for this week, but next week, I'm really excited to welcome Helen on to the show to talk about Alexander Technique and how she has used her Alexander Technique studies to create her own methods specifically for pianists. You won't want to miss my interview with Helen. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful week of piano teaching. I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.